Welcome to part 2 of the annotated bibliography for Module 4 readings. The literature covered in this presentation are Chapter 3, Cognitive Aspects from Course Text, Interaction Design Beyond Human-Computer Interaction, and Chapter 5, Work System Designs in Healthcare from the Course Text Handbook of Human Factors and Ergonomics in Healthcare and Patient Safety, and Course Reading Design Cultural Probes. We will start with Chapter 3, which is the cognitive aspects. In this chapter, authors explain the importance of understanding users, especially their cognitive aspects. Two general modes of cognition are explained: experiential or fast, and the reflective slow cognition. The authors also explain the conceptual frameworks and cognitive theories and how they can inform, design, and explain user interaction and predict the user performance. As for the cognition processes, there are the attention, perception, memory, learning, reading, speaking, listening, problem-solving, planning, reasoning, and decision-making. As for the attention, this is the processes of selecting things to concentrate on at a point in time from the range of possibilities available. Attention involves our auditory and/or visual senses. As for perception, it is how information is acquired from the environment via the different sense organs, eyes, ears, fingers, and transformed into experiences of objects, events, sounds, and tastes. As for the memory, it involves recalling various kinds of knowledge that allow us to act appropriately. It is very versatile, enabling us to do many things. As for learning, it is well known that people find it hard to learn by following a set of instructions in a manual. Instead, they much prefer to learn through doing. As for reading, speaking, and listening, they are three forms of the language processing. They have common items and different items which are explained in the chapter. As for problem solving, planning, reasoning, and decision making, these are processes involving reflective cognition. They include thinking about what to do, what the options are, and what the consequences might be of carrying out a given action. Each of these processes has its design implications. As for attention, we have to make information salient when it needs attending to at a given stage of a task. We have to use techniques like animated graphics, color underlining, order of items, sequencing of different information, and spacing of items to achieve this. We have to avoid cluttering the interface with too much information. And for the perception, representations of information need to be designed to be perceptible and recognizable across different media. This involves icons, borders, and shadings, sound, speech, text, and others. As for the memory, designs should not overload users' memories with complicated procedures for carrying out tasks. Design interfaces that promote recognition rather than recall have to be used, and we have to provide users with a variety of ways to encoding digital information, example files, emails, images, to help them access them again easily through the use of categories, color tagging, timestamping, icons, and others. As for learning, design interfaces that encourage exploration should be used. Design interfaces that guide users to select appropriate actions when initiating learning. And the learning has to be dynamic, so it links concrete representations and abstract concepts to facilitate the learning of complex material. As for reading, speaking, and listening, we have to keep the length of speech-based menus and instructions to a minimum and accentuate the intonation of artificially generated speech voices, as they are harder to understand than human voices. Regarding problem solving, planning, reasoning, and decision making, we have to provide additional hidden information that is easy to access for users who wish to understand more about how to carry out an activity more effectively. We have to use simple and memorable functions at the interface for computational aids intended to support rapid decision making and planning that takes place while on the move. After exploring the processes of cognition, The authors explain the conceptual cognitive frameworks and theories and how they have been developed to explain and predict user behavior based on theories of cognition. They divide the framework as internal, that focus mainly on mental process, and external frameworks that explain how humans interact and use technologies in the contexts in which they occur. The internal frameworks are mental models, gulfs of execution, evaluation, and information processing, while the external frameworks are distributed cognition, external cognition, and embodied interaction. This article points out the role understanding of the role understanding cognition can play in facilitating the success and usability of a design. In healthcare information field, it is important when developing a design to take in consideration implications of each process of cognition on the design, focusing on the target user, like patients, healthcare workers, or others. Now we're going to explore the second chapter, which is Chapter 5, Work System Design in Healthcare. In this chapter, the authors describe the work system model, which is a generic model that can be used to describe elements of work for any type of healthcare work performed either by an individual or by a team, and which can also be used to describe the work of patients in their various contexts with the healthcare system. They describe the 5 elements of work: the individual, tasks, tools, and technologies, physical environment, and organizational conditions. And they describe how they interact and how the change in any element affects the others and consequently the system as a whole. The authors also discuss the importance of designing or redesigning work systems and how they work, how the work redesign aims at eliminating the negative aspects of work. Now the authors explore models of work. System Engineering Initiative for Patient Safety Model of Work System, and patient safety is one of the systems described in the chapter. The system provides a framework for understanding the structures, processes, and outcomes in healthcare and their relationships, and can help to understand what exactly is involved in the care process and consequently provide a deeper description of care processes and help healthcare leaders and policymakers to begin to specify and clarify the relationship between structure or work system and processes and patient outcomes. Also, it provides opportunities to identify the barriers and facilitators to patient care. Now we reached the third reading, which is a very interesting study. It is a European Unit-funded research project which was looking at novel interaction techniques to increase the elderly presence in their local communities. The purpose of the project was to use innovative design probes in research instead of the traditional ethnographic methods like questionnaires or interviews. The influence of this work is the Situationists, who are a collective of artist provocateurs based largely in Paris from the late 1950s to early 1960s, and they wanted their art to be revolutionary, reawakening passion and unconscious desires in the general public. The project included diverse sites with elders with variable relation to technology and variable environments. The sites included were from Norway, Netherlands, and Italy. The time frame of the project was 2 years. The first year has been spent on opening a space of possible designs. The second focused on developing prototypes to be tested in the sites. As for the tool used, the designers used an inspirational package of assorted cultural probes to reflect elderly beliefs, desires, and aesthetic preferences and cultural concerns, and to overcome the generational gap and encourage dialogue, so the designs do not seem irrelevant or arrogant. Postcards, maps, a disposable camera, a photo album, and diary were used. As for the results, analyzing the gathered probing method, the designers came up with different suggestions for each site according to the analysis of the results of each group. For Netherlands, which is a strong community in dangerous area, The suggestion was to build a network of computer displays with which the elderly could help inhabitants communicate their values and attitudes. In Norway, which is an affluent community, the suggestion was to lead a community-wide conversation about social issues sent from the library to electronic systems in public spaces. And for Italy, it was an Italian village site, which is a relaxed social life community. And the suggestion was to create social and pastoral radioscapes, to create flexible communication networks, and to listen to the sounds of the surrounding countryside. As for the implications of this study or the reflections of this study in healthcare industry, user-centered applications are of great importance where approaches to users should take in consideration the cultural background and cognition of the user. This interesting paper introduces a cultural probing artist-designer approach as a novel probing technique to inspire ideas in a design process according to the target user's needs, cognition, and culture. The principle of cultural probing can be used for various target users, yet the elder sample used for this European study represent one of the major users of healthcare and potential users of healthcare information applications in Canada as well. Questions and comments are welcomed, and thank you for listening to this presentation.